Hello everybody, I am Tom and you are watching me play Baldur's Gate 3. Today is my Druid class guide video. This is going to be specifically how I like to build Druids. Granted, you can build them pretty much however you like, but first things first, we're going to go over race choice. So, Wisdom is your bread and butter as a Druid, so you want something that gives you Wisdom. So your main choices for additional Wisdom, for optimal choices here, are Human, gives you a +1 into everything, including Wisdom. Gold Dwarfs gives you a +1 into Wisdom, and a +2 into Constitution. Half-Elves, you can put plus into anything, so you get +2 into your Charisma. You can also do Wisdom and Dexterity, or Wisdom and Constitution, whatever you like. And that's about it. Also Wood Elf, I suppose. That's the other one. Wood Elf gives you +1 into Wisdom. So they're the main ones. Wood Elf, Human, Dwarf, specifically Gold Dwarf, and Half Elf are your main choices. My argument here is always going to be Gold Dwarf, particularly for Circle of the Moon, but if you want to do Circle of the Land, also I think is also pretty much the best choice. Because +2 into Constitution, having a lot of health as a Druid makes them really good because they're naturally really good at being tanks because of the way they can do Wild Shape. I'll go over that a bit later in the video, but just to point out, at level 4, you can have very easily, effectively, like 69 health. Nice. But you can you can effectively have 69 health as a Gold Dwarf Druid very, very easily. And that's just fantastic. Like, you're not going to be taken down very easily with that. So, my main suggestion would be to go to Gold Dwarf. Going over the classes specifically, Druids channel the elemental forces of nature and share a deep kinship with animals. Mastery of Wild Shape allows them to transform into beasts from all over the realms. As for their available cantrips, you can choose 2 cantrips out of this list of 6. We have Guidance. Bestow Guidance upon a creature, it receives a 1d4 bonus to ability checks. We know Guidance, classic of the Cleric, and quite a good cantrip, to be fair. Poison Spray. It's a 1d12 poison damage. It's a damaging cantrip. Produce Flame. You create a flame in your hand, which works as a torch, effectively, so you can spread light with it. And you can also throw it at people and do 1d8 fire damage. So it's a cool little cantrip. It's a kind of pseudo-damaging cantrip. It's probably mainly used for the light, but you can throw it at people when you need to. We have Resistance. You can bolster a creature's defenses. It receives a +d4 bonus to its saving throws. Shillelagh. This one is fantastic if you plan on using a quarterstaff or a club. It essentially imbues that either a club or a staff. It has to be like a wooden weapon, effectively. But it becomes magical, and it deals 1d8 plus your Wisdom modifier in bludgeoning damage, and you use your spellcasting ability for the attack rolls. So essentially you can use your Wisdom to attack people, which makes it far, far more practical to actually hit people. Also, this is a bonus action, which is quite nice, so you can cast it and hit someone in the same turn. And finally, we have Thorn Whip. You strike a target with a thorny vine-like whip. It deals 1d6 piercing damage and pulls the target 3 minutes closer to you if it is a large or smaller creature. So this is very, very good just for consistent damage. It's a good damaging cantrip. 1d6 is a fine amount of damage. And also, the pull can actually pull people off ledges and things as well. So it has some utility to do a lot of damage if you can pull them off big ledges. Notably, you can actually one-shot the hag with Thorn Whip, which is quite cool. If you get in the right position at the start of the fight, you can literally just Thorn Whip the hag straight into the hole. Does wonders, it kills her immediately. But that's it for your choices of cantrips. And prepared spells. So Druids know all of their spells off the bat. Every time you get to a point where you know, like, these are all the first level spells you'll ever know. And then when you get your second level spells, you'll have a list of all the second level spells you know, and then you just prepare the ones you want to use. So we'll go over all of them, all of the first level ones here. Firstly, we have Animal Friendship. You can charm a beast. Charm Person, you charm a person. Create or destroy water. Again, that one's pretty self-explanatory. You create or destroy water. Cure Wounds is a heal. You have to touch to heal them. So it's a relatively good heal at 1d8 plus your Wisdom modifier, but you have to actually be in like physical contact with them to do the heal. Entangle. You create a big area on the ground with vines spray up, and they will try and trap enemies and like hold them in place. And even if it fails to hold them in place, it also counts as difficult terrain, so they move at half speed through it. So even if it doesn't properly like stop them in place, it makes it harder for them to get to you because they're walking at half speed. We have Fairy Fire. You encase multiple targets in these kind of colourful lights that sit on top of them. It turns anything that was invisible visible. And all attack rolls against those creatures have advantage. Also, if you hit something with Fairy Fire, it can't turn invisible again. So it's blocked from turning invisible. We have Fog Cloud. You create a big dense cloud of fog that can blind creatures within it. It can also be used to obscure vision on you, so you can cast it and then walk through it to sneak past someone. We have Good Berry. This is a very interesting spell. You conjure 4 magical berries for yourself and your companions. A creature who eats the berry gets 1d4 hit points. So it's a cool healing spell. Good Berry is cool. It's also... They're just persistent, so they just create the item that lasts forever. So they're really good. You can make like infinite healing effectively with these if you want to spend the time. Like, I'll make 4 good berries and I'll take a long rest, and I make 4 more, then I take a long rest, and I take 4 more, and I take a long rest. You get the point. You can make a lot of healing items by doing this. Also worth noting, technically speaking, these are sellable, so you can just make gold. Granted, they sell for like 2 gold each, so it's not really worth it. But if you really wanted to, infinite money. Next up we have Healing Word. It's not quite as good as healing as Cure Wounds, but it can be done at a distance, which makes it far better with utility. We have Jump. You can triple your jumping distance. Long Strider. You can increase your speed by 3 meters. Speak with Animals allows you to speak with animals. It is worth noting that as a druid, in your wild shape, you can speak to animals irrespective. Like, you don't have to be the same animal to speak to them. If you're in a wolf form, you can talk to cats, you can talk to bulls, you can talk to anything. So if you're in an animal form, you can talk to other animals, so this spell is less relevant. And we have Thunder Wave, which is just a damaging spell. It does 2d8 thunder damage. My suggestions here. Cure Wounds is good. I think Healing Word is better. So generally I have Good Berry, and I have Healing Word. And then we do Entangle, and then either Jump or Long Strider. Jump is generally the one I go for. I'll show off why. Actually, no, I'll just tell you why now. So you can cast Jump on yourself, and then you can turn into a bear, and then your bear can jump ludicrous distances. It's a cool combination. So that will be my suggestions for the spells that you use most of the time. Again, you know all these spells, so you can just change them out on the fly whenever you want. But, you know, it's cool. You get a bunch of proficiencies here with clubs, daggers, darts, javelins, maces, median armor, light armor, shields, quarterstaffs, scimitars, sickles, slings, and spears. So we have a lot of different proficiencies. Generally speaking, my argument would be to take a club or a quarterstaff and use Shillelagh. But if you're planning on not using a club or a staff, you don't need to use Shillelagh. You don't need to take Shillelagh. It's pointless because it only works on clubs and it only works on staves. So it works on like wooden weapons effectively. As for skills, you get a choice between Arcana, Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Religion, and Survival. Folk Hero gives me Animal Handling, Survival. That comes from my my background. Honestly, Nature and Medicine are usually the ones I go for, but you can take your pick here. And finally, Attributes. So this is the general spread they give you. They give you 10 Strength, 14 Dex, 15 Constitution, 8 Intelligence, 16 Wisdom, and 12 Charisma. My argument here is to take 1 off Dexterity and put it onto Constitution. That gives you +3 into your Constitution, +3 into your Wisdom. Dexterity is less relevant because you're going to be... I mean, it adds to your AC, which is nice, but it's less relevant simply because you're going to be in wild shape a lot of the time, and your physical attributes actually get taken on by whatever you wild shape into. So your Strength, Dexterity, and Constitution will go on to whatever you wild shape into. Having said that, I like Constitution because when you get knocked out of your wild shape, you want a lot of health, so that then you can re-wild shape, and it just makes you very, very tanky. I like building druids as tanks as much as possible. You could also make the argument that you don't need strength at all, in which case you can do that, so you have +2 in your dexterity. That's also a pretty good build. But I like having the strength at 10, just because it gives you the base jumping distance as your normal druid form, which is nice. It's good to have that normal jumping distance. But this is pretty much all for character creation. We can move on to level 1. Alright everybody, here we are for the first level up. So I have decided to actually do both in one video because it actually makes it relatively easy for me to do so. But level 2 is when you actually get your subclass. You can see here that you actually get some more. You get another level 1 spell slot, which is nice. So you can actually prepare one more spell as well. These are fine for now, I guess. Let's do this. Let's do I guess Entangle, Jump, and Long Strider. Let's do that, shall we? So, the Circle of the Land. Druids of this circle connect to powerful magic that flows through the earth and binds all living things together. So you get Wild Shape. You get Wild Shape on both the Circle of the Moon and Circle of the Land. But we'll go for Circle of the Land first. So, as a Circle of the Land, you can turn into a wolf. I don't know why this doesn't actually oh no, this is just selling. You get wild shape. Good. You can turn into a badger, you can turn into a spider, you can turn into a wolf, or you can turn into a cat. Badger can dig, quite useful. Spider can web people, quite useful. And wolf is relatively fast, also can give your allies extra speed, and does some good damage. And the cat is stealthy and can avoid being detected, also can be used to distract enemies. You also get natural recovery, so once per day out of combat you can replenish expended spell slots, which allow you to cast extra spells. So this is the same as arcane recovery with the wizard, so you can actually gain spell slots back. However, with the druid it's natural recovery because it's nature. That's the only real difference there. But it's the same thing effectively, you can get your spell slots back if you wish. Also you get an additional cantrip. My argument here would be Produce Flame on whatever you wish. But Produce Flame would be my go-to, I would say. It's pretty good. Now, for Circle of the Moon. Druids spawn to the moon, drawing this mercurial nature to transform into massive creatures and primal elementals, rather. So you get combat wild shape. As a bonus action, you can consume a form of a beast. You may transform twice per short rest. You get Lunar Mend, which means you can expel spell slots while you're in wild shape to heal. So it makes you a lot tankier. I would say Circle of the Moon is perfect for a tank. That's the main build, I would say. So, same thing, you get wild shape, and you get badger, spider, wolf, and cat, like the other one, but you also get a bear shape, so you can turn into a polar bear, which is fantastic. It has 30 hit points, which makes you tanky as all get out. It just makes you very, very good. But that's what you get for level 1 level up. Alright, everybody. So, for level 3, the only real difference is you get level 2 spell slots, and you unlock your level 2 spell list, which is here, as you can see. We have Darkness, which is a good spell. Very nice spell, in fact. You can just, Dark Vision, rather, not Darkness. You can give yourself Dark Vision just straight away, or somebody else. So, for instance, if you have Gale in your party, you can allow him to see in the dark, which is quite nice. Spike Growth. This is fantastic. You shape a piece of ground into hard spikes. A character walking on the spikes takes 1d4 piercing damage for every 1.5 meters they go through it. This is a very big area you turn into spikes. It's a very good spell, and you can just do a lot of damage to creatures running through it. It's fantastic. Protection from poison. You touch a creature and it neutralizes all poison affecting them. And it gives them advantage on saving throws against being poisoned in the future. And you also get resistance to poison damage as well. So it actually does a lot of different things, that spell, but it's relatively niche because you need someone to be poisoned for that to be useful, or something doing poison damage. Next we have Pass Without a Trace. Essentially you can give all nearby companions a +10 bonus to their stealth checks. It's fantastic. Level 2 of Animal Friendship. Moonbeam. Call down a silvery beam of pale light. Any creature that enters that beam or starts its turn in the light takes 2d10 radiant damage. You can also move the moonbeam as an action on your turn, so you can move it somewhere else. It's a very good spell. I like it a lot. Charm Person level 2. Lesser Restoration. You can remove one disease or condition afflicting a creature. Hold Person. You can stop someone from moving. Cure Wounds level 2. It just does more healing. Heat Metal. This one's very interesting. Cause a metal weapon you can see to glow red hot. The creature holding the weapon takes 2d8 fire damage and receives disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until the start of the next turn. It's cool, you just like heat up their sword so they can't hold it is the idea. Entangle. We went over Entangle, that's just level 2 of Entangle. We have Flaming Sphere. Summon a Flaming Sphere that deals 2d6 fire damage to nearby enemies and objects. It also sheds Bright Light for 6 meter radius and Dim Light for an additional 6 meters. So Flaming Sphere is fantastic. You just summon this Flaming Sphere and it lasts for 10 turns, and it acts on its own in combat, so it has its own initiative turn in combat, and you can like roll it around and hit people. It's fantastic. Level 2 of Fairy Fire. Flame Blade, you can conjure a Flaming Scimitar in your hand that deals 3d6 fire damage. It sheds Bright Light in a 3 meter radius and Dim Light in 6 meter radius. Very useful for Circle of Land, more so than Circle of the Moon. Because honestly, the Circle of the Moon focuses far more on animal shapes rather than conjuring a flaming blade. But I suppose if you're out of wild shapes, it's good because you can get 3d6 fire damage from a weapon, which is probably more than Shillelagh is going to be doing, so that's cool, I guess. Level 2 Fog Cloud, level 2 Animal Friendship, level 2 Healing Word. Buckskin. Touch a willing creature to toughen its skin and increase its armor class up to 16. Quite a good spell. I wish it wasn't a level 2 spell. If it was a level 1 spell, it would be really good. Level 2 spell, it's still really good, but I find myself not using it most of the time. Then we have Jump level 2, Thunderwave level 2, Longstrider level 2, and Enhanceability, so you can just enhance one of your attributes, whether it be Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. You can choose one of them and you can increase it. It's cool, you can do it to yourself, you can do it to allies, it's a good ability. But that's about it. The only real thing you get leveling up to level 3 is you get access to your second level spells. Alright, so we're back for level 4. So level 4, the things of note you get. 1, you get an additional cantrip. I chose Produce Flame. It's the same list of those original cantrips that you can choose. I chose Produce Flame. Additionally, you get an additional level 2 spell slot, so you can cast one more level 2 spell, which is great. You also get additional wild shapes. Specifically, you can now turn into, upon all the other ones you can turn into, you can also turn into a Deep Wrath, which has a charge attack, also can cast Dancing Lights, and a Dire Raven, which allows you to fly, which is, I mean, that's good utility right there, being able to fly. Also, you get your perk, or your feat, I should say. I would always suggest on the Druid to do Ability Score Improvement, and to do Wisdom, almost always. You could also, and 2 into Wisdom, I should say, to get to 18. I would also say that as Circle of the Moon, you could make the argument to put your Constitution up to 18 instead, to make you even tankier. Because the playstyle of Circle of the Moon is to be a tank. The playstyle of Circle of the Land is to be a spellcaster for the most part. So I would say Circle of the Land, definitely get your Wisdom up to 18. Circle of the Moon, probably get your Wisdom up to 18, but if you want to be even more tanky, go your Constitution up to 18. That would be my suggestion. Also, the additional wild shape forms are good, but at the same time, Like, notably, for Circle of the Land, the Deep Wrath is good because it gives you the tankiest you can get, because you don't have access to the bear. But for Circle of the Moon, Deep Wrath is fine, particularly for, like, Underdark stuff, I suppose, because it can cast Dancing Lights, it can also do it as a charge attack. Also, it innately has Dark Vision, so that's nice as well. The Crow is good for utility, but the bear is still going to be your go-to combat form, in my mind. It's just a fantastic form that you should always be using, pretty much. But as I said, +2 into Wisdom is usually the way you go. As for gear, Circle of the Moon doesn't matter for the most part. You can wear pretty much whatever you want, because the vast majority of the time when you're in combat, you're going to be in wild shape anyway, so it's far less relevant. As for Circle of the Land, this here is my suggestion. We have the Pale Oak. Infused with Sylvanas' strength, these staves are gifted to Faith Wardens who act in defense of nature. This gives you Faith Warden's Vine, which is effectively you get a free cast of Entangle. Additionally, you cannot be ensnared by Entangle, and it doesn't count as difficult terrain. So essentially you can run over entangled vines, entanglement vines, with no penalty to yourself, which is really, really useful if you want to get away from someone, because you can cast Entangle and then run away and they can't catch you. You get this by... how do I say this without spoiling? You have to complete the storyline surrounding the Druids. Like, properly complete that storyline, if you know what I mean. For those who've played, you will understand. For those who don't, do some exploring in the back room. We also have Hellrider's Pride. Again, these are pretty good if you're going to be healing, and Healing Word is quite good. I don't think it works with Goodberry, but you know, Healing Word is still good, and I use it fairly frequently on my Druid. So being able to give another creature you heal resistance is fantastic. The Druid Leather Armor, strictly speaking, is not the best armor you can have. Just regular Leather Armor is better. It gives you an additional +1 to your AC, so you're at 14 rather than 13. However, you can cast Bark Skin on yourself to get you up to 16 anyway, in which case your armor doesn't really make that much difference. And this armor looks really, really cool. That's why I like this. That's why I'm still wearing this armor, because it looks amazing. And we also have the Key of the Ancients. There's a couple of other headbands that do the same thing as this, but essentially it just gives you +1 to your nature, which is fine. Like, +1 to your nature just sounds like a good idea for a druid, really, doesn't it? Also, we have the Amulet of Lost Voices. I pretty much always use this on my main character, just because it gives you the ability to speak with dead. You get this near the very start of the game. Again, I won't go into spoilers for those unaware, but you can get that very close to the start of the game. These gloves come from Zevlor. You can either buy them, or you can complete his quests, and he will gift them to you. And the Key of the Ancients comes from Nettie, but there are a couple of other places you can get headbands like this, just hanging around the Druid Grove, that will give you +1 to your nature, which is quite nice. So nothing exemplary as far as weapons and armor go. Again, there are general rings that they always go over that are great to have. I'll put them on screen now, but honestly, they're not that relevant. This playthrough, by the way, was a Circle of the Moon, so it's far less relevant for gear in general. Like, the only reason I gave him this is because I did the storyline. I may as well give him this. No one else is going to use it. But yeah, gear far less relevant on the Druid than other classes, simply because a lot of the time you're going to be wild shaping, and when you're wild shaping, your gear doesn't matter. So, that's a thing. But I think that's it for everything for the Druid. If you like this video, please leave a like. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. And as always, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye, guys.